Okay, continuing our series of identifications of original authentic vinyl and counterfeits, because you really can't give this record another word really. It's a repro at best, shall we say. A friend of mine, Bob Cattaneo, and his best friend Henry Mariano were the absolute masters at making records look like the originals. But to be fair to Henry and to be fair to Bob, they never passed them off as originals. Unlike some of the closer to home record dealers who made counterfeits, they did. They passed things like this, or things like this that they did, off as originals. Okay, recently this came up for sale on Facebook, and I had to comment because somebody wanted £1,500 for it. I did actually comment and say, look, that's a bootleg. And to be honest, I didn't get a very favourable reply. What do you know about it or whatever? And I think it ended up on eBay. Now, whether anybody fell for buying it on eBay, I hope not. Because there's the original in my right hand, and there's the bootleg in that hand. Now, if Paul can focus on them, there's a mighty load of difference between the texture of the label and a mighty difference in the depth of the blue. So the first thing to look for the original is the depth of the blue. I just put that down there for Paul to look at. That's the first thing to look at. That's an original press. Now, this one is the counterfeit. You can see the difference. Not as rich a blue as, not a deeper blue as what the original is, but can you see the speckles? That around there. That's the scuff. That's a label scuff, but it is a sign of the weakness of the colouring. But that's scuff, so ignore that. That won't be on every record. But this speckling is. Okay? And that's the first thing to look for. Second thing to look for is the old wobble. The old counterfeit wobble. Timey kangaroo down boy. Not as bad as some of them, but it is a much more subtle vinyl. And it doesn't have the titles in the dead wax. But having said that, people have been starting to put titles in the dead wax and say, look, it's an original because it's got titles in the dead wax. That's rubbish. This one does have the title in the dead wax, and I think Paul will be able to focus on that and probably get it. Can you see that title in the dead wax? This is the original, with the titles etched into the dead wax. But, like all things, there's always exceptions to the rule. This is a later run-off press with the titles in the dead wax. There is the very, 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 very first press of this with no titles in the dead wax, but it does it carries the rich blue, which is the authentic one. So it doesn't have to have the titles in the dead wax. But what it does have to have is the rich blue finish, not this mottled, wishy-washy blue finish. And that's the giveaway. So, okay, I'm not going to try and bend this, but let me tell you, that is not bendable. If I bend that, I'm going to snap it in two. This baby here, which is a reissue, is bendable. Quite heavyweight, but bendable. I can tell you a little bit about this because I did talk to Bob Cattaneo, who was the main person behind the choice of these things. He was from San Francisco, so he knew the area of Oakland very well, but also he actually knew Eddie Foster. But anyway, Bob, when he counterfeited this, was not pleased with the richness of this finish here. He a bit of a perfectionist, so you know what he did? He went and repressed it with white label promos. So the two princes of pressing rare records and making them look very similar to their originals, they weren't happy with that reproduction of the label, mainly because the original's got a bit of a gloss on it. So I think when they cameraed it, they couldn't quite get, or they couldn't replicate the depth of that blue, which is a nice deep blue. This came out not to their satisfaction. So the byproduct from that is the white promo. Now, the white promo, being Bob, who just loved messing around with vinyls, he did the white promo in black vinyl, but just for a giggle, he did different coloured ones. There's Bob Catanio's work, a nice green vinyl, and there's another one, a nice red vinyl. There is a copy, and I've only had it twice, which is white, green, red and another colour, like a multicoloured one. Those presses from Henry Mariano and Bob Cattaneo are really, really collectible. I think possibly the multicoloured Counterfeit would today, I'd value it about £400, even though it's a repro. The green one I'd want £150 for, and the red one I'd want likewise, and this one, which is a Counterfeit, maybe 50 quid. This one, the original, I'm about to auction it, and I think it's going to go for well over 7, probably towards 9.5, maybe even 1,000. Iconic record, first played by Soul Sam. He got it from Simon Susan, and he liked it so much he on his Thursday night gig he played it 2 or 3 times, which was the thing in them days when you had a new record and you really believed in it. Soul Sam got right behind Eddie Foster, and within a very short period of time it became the country's #1 Northern Soul dance floor filler. So that's a bootleg, so do not be fooled, even if it's got the title scratched in. I mean, I could go and scratch the title in now with a pin or whatever you want to do it with, and you can scratch it in. So do not take the fact that the title's in as definitive, because the first press of this, the very first press, doesn't have a title in there at all. This was ran off when I think Eddie got minor attention in the Berkeley area and the Oakland area, and they did another little run off but put the title in the grooves. Then Bob Cattaneo, who just loved messing around with vinyls, he did things like this, and these are very limited. I think maybe he did. I think he told me it was about 30 different coloured ones, reds, 30 reds and 30 greens or whatever, but only did a handful, literally a handful of the 4 colour ones, and that's it. So take another look at the original. That's the original. The depth of the colour. The white one was redone by Bob because he didn't like the off-colour blue that was replicated in the reissue. So look, that's a Counterfeit, and it's certainly not worth £1,500 or anywhere near it. And there's the original. And we'll come back another day when I get a few copies of things I can make a decent story about. I hope that helps, because people have been ripped off with this record here, and at some point, well, over the years, quite a few times I think, mainly because people are cheekily enough stuck the title in the dead wax of that and said, there you are, it's got a title in it, so it's original, and it isn't. And there's the original. Happy collecting, guys.